can get to my script here. So thank you for joining us tonight for what is our 12th and final school board candidate forum in the 2022 election cycle. Secular AZ is a 501c3 organization focused on protecting the Constitution and the separation of church and state in Arizona for over a decade. I'm excited to be hosting this final in a series of candidate forums for school board candidates in Arizona. We decided to begin hosting this type of event because our members care about the growing threat of white Christian nationalism in our state and country. And unfortunately, we're seeing how this political ideology is threatening our local school boards. And our local school boards really are the heart of our democracy. So we probably have some newcomers here, new to our organization. And if our mission of protecting the separation of church and state is something that you care deeply about, we ask you to consider becoming a member of our organization, perhaps becoming a monthly donor or volunteering for our various events and committees that we have. You could also do all three. We also have opportunities where we will guide you in the process to become more engaged at the legislative level using the Request to Speak or RTS app so that you can engage with your elected officials at the Arizona legislature. And we also have some great programming coming up. This is the last of our school board candidate forums, but the exciting news is that we are going to shift gears and we are going to start having some candidate forums with some of the bigger races. So our statewide races, I know that I think it's next week actually, statewide and one special election. So as most of our members know for sure, and probably some people who are here right now know, we have a special election in Maricopa County for our county attorney. And so we are going to be joined hopefully by both candidates, but I think so far we've only received response from one. That's going to be next week. Then we're still working on programming for the next 2 Wednesdays after that. And then very exciting, we have the superintendent's candidate scheduled. So again, I don't know if we've heard responses yet. I believe we've heard from one of the candidates, but that should be interesting, especially given recent events developing in the Tom Horn campaign corner with the getting campaign help from David Stringer, former legislator here in the state of Arizona. So I look forward to that discussion. There are more events that we have coming up and I don't have them listed, but I can go ahead and share that at some point throughout the programming. So without any further ado, nobody wants to hear me talk. We are all here to hear the candidates talk, and we are going to start alphabetically. First, I'm going to allow you all to introduce yourself. So take 3 minutes for that. Eric will be keeping the time. And when I put my hands up like this means that you have 10 seconds left. I may occasionally turn off my camera as well, because sometimes it messes with the streaming. So if you see me come on and I'm like this, that means you've got 10 seconds left and it's time to wrap it up. So because Raymond Deere, his name begins with a D, and that is first. I am an English teacher. So Ray, you can go ahead and tell the people who you are. Introduce yourself. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you first and foremost for the invitation. And I would be remiss to greet you in my native tongue, Skitash. It's from the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. And I will also be remiss to my elders that always taught me to welcome everyone into the valley. This is our ancestral land for thousands of years, the Otham and Pipash people of Salt River. And so we've always been welcoming to all people, and we can trace our ancestral lands in Mesa in the valley for thousands of years. So welcome to the valley. I'm a longtime Mesa resident, and I was born and raised in LA. Back in the 50s, the government had a program called the Relocation Act, and my grandparents, they joined and voluntarily joined, and they were able to pick 4 cities, and they picked LA back in the 50s to go and relocate and get job opportunities and economic opportunities. And so my grandpa took that, took his family there. And that's how I was raised in LA. But since the 70s, I've been coming back here to the valley and visiting on vacation time and summer vacation and what have you. My dad lived out here during the 80s. So I've seen Mesa grow really vastly in a fast manner also. I remember when they were building the 60 freeway, and I remember when they were Gilbert Road was some place way out there in the East Valley, but now it's just a booming economy and area. I'm so grateful to be here. I taught middle school for 12 years, nearly 12 years. I was a substitute teacher and assistant to the teacher's assistant in LA. And then from there, they had a program where you can be a teacher assistant and then eventually gradually go into teaching. That's what I did. And I loved it. I hold a master's degree in education and also political scientist from Cal State Long Beach. Go 49ers. And also currently I'm a Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community Associate Judge. I've been that for nearly a little over 9 years. I do civil family court and family court matters on Salt River, and I've presided over thousands of cases. And so I believe that I'm well equipped to hopefully be a board member here at Mesa. I'm a former school board member for my tribe, Salt River Schools. I was vice chair and also secretary on the board. And so I understand the public meeting laws and presiding over certain meetings and the limitations that we have as school board members. And so I'm really excited to be part of this campaign. Win or lose, I've been out there and meeting the people and meeting the needs. And win or lose, I have a stake in the Mesa Public Schools because I have 2 graduates from Mesa High School and I have 2 more sons in the Mesa Public Schools. So I'm really enjoy the community. It's a sense of community, and I love being part of this campaign. And I'm looking forward to questions. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that. I will go ahead and move on to Marcy. So thank you for that, Ray. Marcy, your turn. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please. Oh, Marcy, you are muted, so make sure you unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I really want to thank you for holding this forum. Anytime when people get to discuss public education with the public, it's a grand event, and I really want to thank you for providing us this opportunity. I am a 43-year Mesa resident, but you can tell from my accent I am not from here. I'm from upstate New York, and that's where I was raised. But I have 31 years of teaching experience, and 28 years of them are in Mesa. I was a Mesa high school history teacher at Mesa High, at Dobson High, and at Red Mountain High School. And I taught everything from American history to European history to comparative governments. I was a model UN sponsor. I'm a proud classroom teacher. When I retired from Mesa Public Schools in 2007, I worked as a consultant, and then I was eventually hired by my alma mater, Arizona State University. And I was the K-12 initiatives director for the history department. And that allowed me to do special projects, particularly incorporating the arts into a multidisciplinary approach to teaching. I know from teaching history to teach history without music, without art, without sculpture, without literature, it doesn't have as much meaning. I've been on the Mesa Public Schools Governing Board since my retirement from ASU, and I've been on the board for 4 years. I am married to Mike Hutchinson. Mike was the city manager of Mesa. We are heavily invested in Mesa, and Mesa is our home, and it is where we raised our 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters who were raised not only by us, but by Mesa Public Schools, and they were K-12 educated here. They are also proud Arizona State graduates, and frankly, I want everyone's children to have the experience at Mesa Public Schools like my kids did. They got a rich education here, and they went on to get degrees, advanced degrees at Harvard and Stanford. And I want every kid to be able to seize their opportunities like my kids were able to do that.
Great, thank you so much. And, you know, I realized too that I forgot to mention that there are 7 people running for this, for these 2 seats. They're both 4-year seats. We did not receive a reply from Rachel Walden or Ed Steele. And the other 2 candidates, J.R. Wright and Chris Hamlet, were unable to attend because they had prior commitments. So I just wanted to acknowledge that there are 7 running for 2 seats. Mesa Public Schools, I believe, is the largest district in the state of Arizona. So this race is important because there are an awful lot of students, teachers and staff and families who rely on the public schools in Mesa. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move to Jacob. So Jacob Martinez, welcome, and please unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the folks here.
Thank you so much. And I love that you said that. But hi, my name is Jacob Martinez, and I'm running for a seat on the board here in Mesa Public Schools. And a big part of why I'm doing that is that exactly what Gigi just said, is because this race is important. And it's, you know, not just important, you know, in the short term, but in long term, and looking at what are the opportunities that students are going to have, not just now, but, you know, 10, 20, and 30 years into the future. I'm incredibly grateful to have graduated from Mesa Public Schools, from Dobson. And it's, I mean, the education and the help and the, you know, investment that Mesa Public Schools had in me was life-changing. You know, from joining the military to starting a small business to going to ASU, you know, it did, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the foundation I received at Mesa Public Schools. And so that's why I'm running, to ensure that, you know, this is an opportunity that all students have, because I acknowledge that not everyone is fortunate to have certain opportunities, you know, in our public education system and in life in general. But I want to make sure that all of our students are receiving those chances to ensure that, you know, we are pulling out and putting out a quality, well-educated workforce prepared to take on the ever-challenging, you know, world that we have unfolding in front of us. So thank you for hosting. Thank you for having us. Ray and Marcy, good to see you as always. And I'm looking forward to tonight.
Well, it's definitely our pleasure. And I know that our members are also happy to see this kind of programming. So again, if this is the kind of stuff you want to see, you know, school board races are so important, but they're at the very bottom of the ballot. And by the time you all get down to the nitty gritty of doing the fundraising and things like that, a lot of people are tapped out. So we're happy to be able to present these forums. And let's go ahead and kick it off with some questions. So let me get back to my script here. Let's see. I'm going to start it off. So and this time we're going to start with Marcy. So Marcy, you're going to go first. Jacob, you'll be second. And then Ray, you will go third. But the question is, what kind of programming and policies do you hope to bring to the district? So starting off with Marcy, and I know you said that you're already on the board, but let's hear what you hope to bring this next term if you're elected.
I really appreciate the question very much. Being on the board has allowed me to really investigate a lot of the areas that we really need to invest in our students. One of the areas of programming that I'm very concerned about is literacy. Our kids are not proficient in reading. And frankly, it's been an age-old Mesa problem. We have been able to advance literacy by finally adopting new materials. We hadn't adopted new materials in literacy education in ELA since 2003. We finally have invested in new materials for our staff, our students, our teachers, and we've also hired coaches to teach phonics. We are using a strong phonics approach to literacy. these are all things that Mesa Public Schools can do, but we have to have a community approach to literacy. And MPS is reaching out and extending to a community-based approach to literacy. Call it a Mesa Reads, if you will. But we are coordinating now with the city and city librarians. We are coordinating with nonprofits. And one of the boards that I sit on is the Mesa Public Schools Foundation. And the Mesa Public Schools Foundation has taken on literacy as a major challenge to provide resources to children and their families and to teachers. We have to be a community that surrounds our kids with caring adults, because literacy is currency. Without literacy, we don't have equity, we can't have inclusion, we cannot provide an opportunity for kids to seize their futures. Also, I want to advance an arts integration expansion in Mesa. Also, workforce development, as well as many multiple avenues to success.
All right, thank you for that answer. I was just thinking about, usually we have quite good attendance for these, but I also know that Serena Williams is in round 2 of the US Open. And I know for myself, I hope I can maybe catch the tail end of it, depending on how long it lasts, because she looks pretty good so far for 41 years old. So sorry, I can hear it playing in my living room over there. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why there's not as many people. So Jacob, same to you. What kind of programming and policies do you hope to bring to Mesa Public Schools?
Yeah, I do want to echo what Marcy said a little bit before, without trying to sound repetitive. But that's so important. And she touched on a point of how could we ensure equity without, addressing some of these root problems. And so looking at where do we see some of these issues when it comes to literacy rates, and how can we go into those communities and be diligent about the communities that we're serving in order to best serve them. And so that takes a comprehensive, zoomed out approach of looking to see how did we get to this point and how can we enact policies and enact programming so that we're, impacting and working in these communities in a way that's going to resonate with them. That's very important, especially in a city as diverse as Mesa, which is one of our strong suits, but definitely, leads to, we cannot have a one size fits all approach to some of these issues. And in addition to that, I think we expanding our CTE programs and expanding some of that on the job and real world experience is so crucial. And it's been done at countless of our high schools so far. And I'm thinking of Mountain View in particular, who's taken the lead on this initiative and is doing great work when it comes to partnering with businesses and partnering with community leaders to bring students, work to the students. Students feel more invested and more passionate about a project or an assignment or a class when they feel like it actually has some real world meaning to them, that it's actually impacting them. And so making sure that we're capitalizing on that and bringing these experiences to students, because that's the education that they're going to remember. We have an education system in general that's, archaic from 100 years ago that isn't meant to turn out students going to the jobs of today. And so it really takes 21st century thinking and saying, how can we ensure that students are prepared to enter the workforce?
Great, thank you so much. So Ray, same question to you. What kind of programming and policies would you like to bring to Mesa Public Schools?
Okay, good. Thank you for that question. As a former teacher, I know that every teacher knows that you have to invest the first week at least, or 2 weeks, in classroom management policies and procedures. I think that there has to be a paradigm shift in all throughout Mesa Public Schools with regards to converting our school sites into learning environments in the classroom, but also throughout the campus. One answer or a question that was given to us through different other publications was, what are the needs of the parents and students? And right now, school safety is a very vital component. I'm not just talking about any outside intruders, but also within the school. There's constant fightings, arguments, and school sites that are not providing that calm, cool, and collected environment. As an associate judge, I've seen firsthand that, and through my judicial training, and also as a teacher, that children thrive in a predictable environment. And when there's a predictable environment all throughout the district, at the school site, through the campus, and all in the classroom management, kids thrive in that type of environment. And then they can concentrate on the task at hand, whatever literacy we approach, whatever mathematics program we have, they will be able to thrive in that type of environment because the anxiety is down, the depression portion is down, and just study after study that if we can thrive to do that first throughout the district, I believe a lot of these issues will go by the wayside and we can concentrate as educators to get our children learning. My wife, Annie, she was a former secretary at Mesa High School, and she saw firsthand, she dealt with parents firsthand and their needs. My son is a security guard also at a local high school. And if you talk to all the school personnel throughout, not just teachers, you'll find a lot. And I would be a fact-finding mission to get to the heart of the matter, to convert our schools into learning facilities.
Great, thank you for that, Ray. All right, this time we are going to start with Jacob. And Jacob, the question that I have next for you, and I feel like this kind of goes along with how Ray closed us out with that last question. Do you support programming that includes, oh boy, this is kind of it could be a two-parter, right? Do you support programming that includes social emotional learning? So I guess let's just save it at that for now. Ray talked a little bit about that. So do you support programming that includes social emotional learning for Mesa Public Schools? Jacob, you're first.
Yeah, thank you. I do support programming that includes social emotional learning. And because I think we see an epidemic in this country right now, especially with students, to where, mental health has become a huge crisis. And we haven't done enough. So, as a state, to address this issue. And then in the aftermath of COVID, and the months since, we've seen depression rates soar. We've unfortunately seen suicide rates soar. And we need to be tackling this issue head on. This isn't something that we can be complacent with and stand on the sidelines and hope that we might figure it out. This is one of the #1 issues for our students right now. And we need to be doing everything we can. And there's different approaches to that. Social emotional learning and getting those wellness checks is one aspect of it. But there's so much more that we need to be doing as a district, as a state, as a community to ensure that we're actually addressing this issue. So I expanded a little bit more, but yes, I do.
Thank you so much. So same question now to you, Ray. Do you support programming that includes social emotional learning?
I think it goes back to my paradigm shift that if we can train all school personnel, not just our teachers, but be able to identify mental health issues. Just as a teacher, we had training on this, but also as a judicial officer, I've had training on this. And the data is clear that all these issues arising is childhood trauma. And I know as an educator, we cannot control what goes on at home, but childhood trauma affects the frontal lobe area, which is our executive function, which also is our common sense decision-making portion of our brain. And when it's disrupted in the beginning of their childhood trauma could be at different levels, whether it's extreme or very lightly called trauma. Nonetheless, the brain is affected, and they've had studies where there's actual brain, it gets disrupted in the decision-making process, in that it's executive function. And so with that, I would have training on the brain for all school personnel to be able to identify and refer our students who are going through that to proper counseling, proper officials, because we have to, once we can fix that portion of childhood trauma, or at least address it, again, a lot of these issues will go by the wayside. And I've learned throughout years working with children that children are very resilient. And if you can get them in a proper environment that's calm, cool, and collected, including the classroom, they will be able to thrive, and a lot of that healing process takes place. And so we need to get our campuses on board so that each is a learning environment. And I'm dedicated to that issue of attacking and addressing childhood trauma and getting these tools to our school personnel.
Great, thank you so much for that, Ray. And so same question is now going to go to Marcy. Marcy, go ahead. Do you support social emotional learning programming for students?
I'm so happy to be on this panel with Jacob and Ray, because they have brought forth the issues that our community has to deal with. In working my first year on the board with March for Our Lives, and then having been a board member during COVID, we had to address social emotional issues. We had to address the wellness of our students. And so as a result, we have doubled the number of counselors. There is now a counselor in every single elementary school. We have social workers now who support not only students, but their families. When I got on the board, I was shocked to learn that the high school counselor had turned into an academic advisor. And as one of our students said, I can count my credits. I don't need an adult to do that. I need someone to talk to. So now our academic advisors are now certified counselors once again, helping our students and their families. We have entered partnerships with mental health organizations, our teachers and our staff, because we consider every employee of Mesa Public Schools an educator, are now trained to recognize mental health issues. These are essential pieces to providing a learning environment, which Mr. Deere has talked about a lot. And having been a teacher, a learning environment is that nurturing environment where a kid belongs and can thrive and then be accessible to new learning. I totally agree with both of you. But one of the areas I want to talk about is the arts. The arts is where kids have a voice and those kids can be heard. Let's hear kids.
Great. In my classroom, I utilized a curriculum from Portland, Oregon called Rethinking Schools. And there was some really, as an English teacher, I would always open with poetry because it allowed my students to express themselves in an artistic way and without any, rules or constraints of, capitalization, punctuation, etc. And it allowed me to see where they were with their writing and also what was going on with them. And it gave them an opportunity to express themselves. So thank you for that. Let's see, let's go on because we are talking about mental health. We hear about this a lot. I know that, well, I think we've all been reeling basically since 1999 with Columbine, right? But nothing changes and these horrible mass shootings continue, especially in schools, and teachers are often on the front lines. So this is a two-part question. And, Eric, if we need to take maybe an extra minute or so for folks to answer because it is a lengthier question. The question is going to go to Raymond again first. Am I correct in that? Wait. Hold on. Am I right? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And this question is really relevant since the events that happened in Uvalde, Texas. So first part of the question, what do you think needs to be done with regards to stopping school shootings, part one? And then what role can school boards play to keep kids and staff safe? So Ray, you're going to go ahead and go first. Given the recent events in Uvalde, what do you think needs to be done with regards to stopping school shootings? And then what role can school boards play to keep their kids safe?
All right, thank you. I was a substitute teacher here in Mesa Public Schools for a couple of years, about a year and a half or so. And I was able to visit a lot of school sites and see the layout. And there's some schools where they're centrally located as far as in a circle. And in the middle, there's a resource center for all the teachers. I thought that would be a great idea if anything, a school shooting were to happen. My proposal to the experts in school security would be kind of utilize those central areas as a hiding place for all our kids. At the elementary level, I don't know the cost of this, but one proposal I would like to look into is just a safe room for our elementary kids, our most vulnerable. You could even have along the wall, you can build a bulletproof system where all the kids gather in under this wall, but it's kind of like a table, and they go under the table, and it's a safe place for them. Again, these are little proposals that I would like the school personnel to look at and see what's in our budget. But also it's the facility plan layout also. Having I know there's a lot of fences all around. When I taught at Fremont, there was no fences, and recently I passed by there. They have a fence going up now, but before, when I was teaching there, there was no fence, and people could come straight up. But we've learned a lot since then. So I would look and have our experts to look at these little proposals, just to have that immediate type of response if there's a school shooting. Again, a safe room or a safe place for our children. The role of the school board would have to take the reins on this issue. One, look into our budget, talk and have a fact-finding mission with our school personnel, with local Mesa PD, and see what their response is and their plan. And I know that when we do that, we can all be on the same page. But the school board would have to do a fact-finding mission first, and have meetings on this issue, and have all the players involved to give their input, because these ideas I've come up with, I'm sure there's more people who have more experience that could lay out a plan for our most vulnerable, especially our elementary, but for all kids, middle school, and also our high schoolers. And so I think that first and foremost, we have to have meetings on these issues and get the proposals out and see what's in our budget also. I understand there's a budget constraints, but again, we have to invest in the safety of our children, and they're our most precious in our community.
Great. Thank you, Ray. And that means, Marcy, you are going to be next. I'll repeat the question. What do you think needs to be done with regards to stopping school shootings, and what role can school boards play to keep kids and staff safe?
Well, having been on the school board during the Uvalde shootings, it just shook me to my very core. And the outside shooter, we have to make sure that entries are secure. And we discovered that a number of our entries were not as secure as we had hoped. Personnel told us, and it's a supply chain issue, and we are desperately trying to make sure that our entries to our schools are secure. We have to protect our people and our students. But we have Mr. Al Moore, who is the chief of security. He is a former Mesa Police Department employee. He has coordinated extensively with MPD, and a chain of command has been established, as you realized in Uvalde, and this is what just flummoxed everyone. Who was in charge? We have that clearly delineated now in Mesa, and that's because of coordination between Mesa Public Schools and the Mesa Police Department. But when I worked with the March for Our Lives kids, when they came to me and said, would you help? I said, honey, I know that you are not worried about the shooter coming into the building. You're worried about the shooter that's sitting next to you in biology class. And they go, yes. And so social emotional learning is absolutely essential. That's why we included so many more counselors and social workers, because we had parents who came to us, particularly after suicides, and said, we are not doing enough to address the wellness of our children. So we have also added psychologists. We are trying to create environments where kids are surrounded by trusting, caring, professional adults who can help them. Because as we realized more than ever because of COVID, not every child has access to health care, whether it be physical care or mental health care. And frankly, schools have become care centers. And it's a lot of it's because of the nonprofits who have joined with us, and social service agencies like a New Leaf, but also mental health agencies. And we are partnering with, whether they're nonprofits or for-profit healthcare centers. We are bringing healthcare to our schools because healthy children can learn.
Great, thank you for that. And I'll repeat it again because it's kind of a meaty question, Jacob. What do you think needs to be done with regards to stopping school shootings, and what role can school boards play to keep kids and staff safe?
Yeah, well, as you know, part of the cohort of students that went to Miss Hutchinson, 3 years ago, that's exactly hitting the nail on the head. And it's not. I think so often we either try to be defensive or reactionary when planning and talking about these events. When that's not the approach that we need to be taking. We need to be proactive in trying to not stop someone from coming into our schools, but stopping the kid that's sitting next to our students. And that starts with comprehensive mental health support. If we can ensure that we're working with students and be diligent about what's bothering students, what problems are they facing, and how can we help, we're going to foster a more positive environment that students aren't going to feel inclined to go and carry out these dangerous attacks. It starts now, and it starts with the work that we can do to support our students. I think we've gotten to a point now where, unfortunately, on the more root cause of that issue, we're not going to see action. And so we've had to put up these defensive measures. We have to put up fences. We have to, implement bulletproof glass. And unfortunately, that's a reality of what we need to do. But if we want to come to the true root of it, because again, we're not stopping someone who's not supposed to be on our campus. We're trying to stop someone that's supposed to be, someone we want to be in our schools. And we want them to continue to be in our schools. We don't want someone to get to the point where they feel that they're so unwelcomed or ostracized within our communities that they need to do something like this. We want them, we want to welcome them, and we want to have a loving and caring, inclusive community. And so it starts with that proactivity in mental health and supporting students and ensuring we're doing everything we can to ensure that every student in Mesa Public Schools knows that they're welcome and know that they're meant to be where they are.
Thank you so much for all of your very thoughtful answers on that question. I heard somebody speaking the other day, and they were talking about how our public schools, really are kind of that last space that we share in common. Like we've become so divided, and we're sending our children to schools, we're sending our loved ones as educators and as classified staff. And so I appreciate all of your answers. The idea of coming together for the, public good is just pretty prevalent in the discussion that we're having tonight. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Again, if you do have questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. I did want to point out too that Jacob approached me before tonight. He has a quick engagement, so he's going to have to step off, and we'll welcome him back in whenever he comes back in. But in case you see Jacob leave for a minute, that's the reason why. Hang on, because he'll be back. So with that, let's go ahead and well, this is one that's very important to our members. We are a nonprofit organization focused on the separation of church and state. And so this is a question that our members care very much about. So what role, and hold on just a second, let me see, who are we going to go with first this time? It's going to be Marcy. What role, if any, should religion play in our public schools? So Marcy, you're going to go first. What role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
The proselytizing of religion should not have a role, but the teaching of religion should, because historically, religion has been a motivator. It's been a method of causation for many events that have happened in our human experience. If students don't know about religion, they're not going to be able to understand and drive the true meaning of culture, whether it be literature, music, art. By understanding where people are coming from, students will have a better understanding of their fellow human beings. At the very least, there will be tolerance. Hopefully, there will be respect and understanding. Having taught history, whether it be American history or European history, religion is a moving, very powerful force. And unfortunately, a number of my colleagues refrained from teaching religion because they saw it as the third rail. How do you teach the Reformation? How do you teach colonization? How do you teach abolitionism? How do you teach the Holocaust? How do you teach the civil rights movement? How do you teach the current situation in Ukraine if you don't teach about religion? We don't teach religion to convert. We teach religion to be able to understand the human condition, because beliefs and values are so often based in religious thought. So therefore, it must be a diversity of religious thought.
Great. Didn't even need to count you down. Thank you so much. So after Marcy, then we're going to go ahead and go with Jacob. What role, if any, should our public schools, should religion play in our public schools?
Yeah, I don't think it would be at all possible for me to say any better than what Marcy just said. But it's just that, in no way should our public schools or any public institution be pushing any sort of religious belief or ideology on students. But to really get an understanding of who we are, where do we come from, and why are things the way we are, or the way that they are, we can't do that without having a comprehensive and reasonable idea of the religions that have shaped those decisions. Some of the largest events and circumstances, situations, systems that happen throughout history and are in place today happen as a result of religious input or religious beliefs. No matter what it was, if it wasn't for some religious involvement, the United States may not exist. Because the whole point was fleeing that ideology. And so it definitely plays a role in getting us to understand the culture and the reasons that things are the way they are. But in no circumstance should that ever be a force, but rather used as a way of offering students a understanding into a culture or an ideology that they wouldn't otherwise have, because it's not in their immediate echo chamber. And so by putting kids in situations where they have to learn and be diverse, we're going to have not just a more informed society and student population, but a more accepting one as well. And that's super important in making sure, again, that we have positive school environments that kids are excited to come to every day.
Great. Thank you so much. Ray, same question to you. What role, if any, should religion play in our public schools?
Good question. I was a middle school teacher in LA. It started at 6th grade. And so for a couple of years, I was a 6th grade teacher. I taught English, language arts, and world history. And when I started teaching, I kind of looked at my mentor. I remember talking about this. I said, we're basically teaching, we're religious teachers. Because when you go into world history, every chapter was about that civilization's religion. And so I exposed our 6th graders in the inner cities of LA to all these different religions who were rich on how their approach to a creator. And so I know if you were to study my people's ancestry and their culture here in the Valley, the O'odham Peepash people, you would have to, by default, have to talk about creator and how we wrapped our whole lives around the creator. And so in essence, you would be teaching that. And so as a 6th grade teacher, we taught every world religion. It was teaching their beliefs and their civilization, but inherently you would have to teach their religion. And we have tons of activities on writing activities and art activities over the different religions that we had. And I believe my sixth graders came out more informed, better equipped as they go out and they meet someone from a different religion to be able to respect their beliefs, whether they believe in a religion or not. And so I believe as a teacher, yes, there's a fine line of teaching religion as opposed to proselytizing religion. And as a teacher, I always kept my politics and my religion out of the classroom to the extent possible of not teaching about it. But no, proselytizing, that's a personal issue, and we should leave that to the parents and guardians.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Ray. Let's see, what do we have coming up next here? It's 6:50. So if you do have questions that you would like to ask, please by all means put them in the Q&A. And let's go ahead and pick on one that's maybe a tiny bit controversial these days. And this one will go to Marcy first. Oh wait, no, hold on. I think actually Jacob is first with this one. My apologies. Is that right? Do I have that right? All right, so Jacob, you are going to answer this next question first. And that question is, do you support programming that includes comprehensive sex ed, also known as CSE? So do you support programming that includes bringing comprehensive, scientifically appropriate, accurate, medically age appropriate CSE to the students of Mesa Public Schools?
Yeah, I thank you. I get to start with the controversial one. Yay. I think we need to have a community-based approach to this. I think it's been, Mesa's proven time and time again that we care about parent input, and that the parents care very strongly about parent input. And so we need to make sure that any decision, especially a big one like that we have that community-minded approach to ensure that we have, a program and a system learning process in place that families are supportive of. Throughout Mesa Public Schools, our students, if they're going to take part in our sex ed programs, they have to get a permission slip signed. The parents have to consent and then give their blessing in order for any sort of sex education to take place. And that's important because we need to ensure that when a family's ready to have that conversation with a student, whether it's in sixth grade, eighth grade, or ninth grade, they do it on their own time and they do it in a way that they feel comfortable. And if that, if we have a system currently in Mesa Public Schools that isn't working, or that's working great, it takes having that community feedback and talking so that, we have, again, a system that a diverse city like Mesa, which is, widely, we have a lot of people and a lot of different ideologies, we can all be proud of. And so continuing to ensure that we have community feedback, but also never straying away from that idea of ensuring that parents and families are supportive of what we're doing, and that they offer their support and they give us their blessing with that signature on a piece of paper.
Thank you for that, Jacob. The same question now will go to Ray. Ray, do you support programming that includes comprehensive sex ed, also known as CSE, in Mesa Public Schools?
All right, good question. As a lifelong educator and a judicial officer, I know that it's very important to respect the parental rights and also the guardians' rights on these issues. This could be a very touchy subject for a lot of our parents and guardians. And so as a school board member, I would be a representative and I would take this to the parents and the guardians, and I would take them to as far as what's their input on this issue. As a professionally trained fact finder, as a judge, that's what I do. And I have to go on a fact-finding mission of see what the parents and the guardians and what their views are on these issues as a representative, if elected to the school board. As far as my support of sex ed, and again, I really would be hesitant to support any issue like this, but it has to come from the parents or guardians. and see what they're, and I like Jacob's proposal. You would have to get, if any issue talking on this type of subject, you would have to get parent signature and guardian signature authorization. But again, I would leave these personal issues to the home, and we have to respect the parents and the guardians on their issues as far as what they want to teach their children or not. Our issue here is to teach them the curriculum and to get them to graduation and be lifelong learners in that respect. But at the same time, respecting the parental and guardian authority as far as what they teach their children at their home.
Great, thank you for that. And that means that Marcy's going to go ahead and close us out on this question. Do you support bringing comprehensive sex ed to the students in Mesa Public Schools?
I'm impressed by the answers that Jacob and Ray have given, because I believe it reflects Mesa. We revised and updated the sex education curriculum in Mesa Public Schools this past year. We have a committee, it's called Project Mesa, and it is on sex education, and a school board member gets to appoint 2 members of the community to the committee. It ensures community involvement in the resources as well as the curriculum of the education provided in this area for our kids, whether it's videos or student resources. When we updated and revised the curriculum, we got community input. We had numerous hearings at school board meetings. Parents were allowed to get any resources, watch any video that was available for this curriculum. The 2 directors were available for parent questions and comments. And as a result, when we adopted the new curriculum, the new and updated revised curriculum, it was fact-based, but it was also community-based. It reflected the community we love as Mesa, and it was passed with little irritation, if you will. It was accepted by the community. And if people want to go further, I would love to have comprehensive sex education, but perhaps it comes from additional resources. Planned Parenthood used to have a program called the Positive Force Players, where kids taught kids based in facts about sex education.
All right, thank you for that. So let's see, and the time here, we got almost 7 o'clock, and I do know that Jacob is going to need to go to a prior commitment that he'd already scheduled. So we'll work around that. Let's see. Now, this one I think too our members care a lot about. Part of what we do here at Secular AZ is to track legislation, and specifically legislation that is an overt kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Well, that blurs the lines between church and state. But there were numerous bills in this legislative session, a flurry, if you will, of bills that seem to really focus on education, on teachers, on curriculum. Even we saw book bans in 2022. So we saw a number of education and school focused bills become law. Which of these bills gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member? So again, which bill this legislative session gave you the most concern, and how will you handle its implementation as a board member? And we are going to start with Ray this time around. So Ray, go ahead and take it away.
So are we talking about, just a clarification, we're talking about Arizona State Senate representative of their this school, it's not school year, but this year as far as legislation?
Yes, so in the 2022 legislative session, which ended sometime in July this year, because it was like the longest legislative session ever, it felt like. What education related bills did you see make its way through, get signed into law? What gave you the most concern, and how do you handle its implementation as a board member?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to do my research on this subject, but I know there's bills that were proposed, and I know as a Mesa parent, I've received emails on the latest issues being brought before all school boards and their implementation of different legislation that are mandated now that they would have to revise some of theirs. Um, One issue most recent that came before us was the most recent transgender legislation that came before, that was in my latest email. And so I have to look more into it. I probably Marcia would know the background, because there was her being on the school board. It seemed like the school board had to revise something as far as the transgender policies and procedures pursuant to a recent ruling, or it's not ruling, but at least legislation law passed through, and they have to revise some language in there. And so as a school board, I'm a team player. And so, but I always state this, and on the previous school board that I was on, I would support, and I know we want to get 100% backing by the school board, but at the same token, I have to take into consideration the law, the morals, the ethics, things of that nature. So I would fully support any type of legislation or any type of school board position, so long as it's legal, first and foremost, of course, and so long as it's moral, as far as the community morals within Mesa, and also it's long as it's ethical. And so as a judicial officer, I live by the law, and so I would ensure that that happens as a school board member.
Thanks, Ray. Same question goes to you, Marcy. Bill that gave you a particular amount of concern related to schools, teachers, students, et cetera, and how you would handle that implementation as a board member.
I have to admit, there was a number of pieces of legislation that gave me heartburn this year. Whether it was the perusal of library books, or the transgender children that we've now prohibited from going on sports teams. But by far, the most devastating piece of legislation that was passed was HB 2853, which passed the universal ESA voucher expansion. Despite the people of Arizona in 2018 in Proposition 305 voting 2-1 to not expand vouchers, this legislature has decided to expand vouchers. It will mean $1 billion or more of money that will be siphoned off from our public schools. This is the death knell of our public schools. In unaccountable private academy, micro schools, and home schools, there will be no accountability, no transparency. As a public school advocate, to see that kind of money siphoned off from our children's education, we all should be outraged. But as a taxpayer, everybody should be outraged, because there is absolutely no accountability. $6,500 is going to go with a child, no matter what private school they go to, what charter school they go to, what home school they are in. I see it as an entitlement for wealthy families. And we know that our community is against this. What do we do to stop this? We sign the referendum that is being proposed by Save Our Schools Arizona. We get it back on the ballot, and we vote it down as the people of Arizona.
we can only hope that the Supreme Court will allow us that opportunity when the time comes. So same question to you, Jacob. What bill gave you, as Marcy said, the most heartburn, and how would you handle its implementation as a board member?
I want to echo what Marcy said really quickly. HB 2853 is going to be a disaster. We like to talk a lot about budget transparency. And I mean, we're getting absolutely none of this. To put thousands and thousands, that's going to equate to millions of dollars into institutions where we don't know what's going on. That just doesn't make fiscal sense. I won't beat the dead horse. Marcy hit it head on. So in the legislature, there's a plethora of a disaster of bills that we see every single session. But two that really stood out to me this year is HB 2112 and HB 2161. HB 2112 was the teacher gag bill, where we're trying to limit what teachers are able to teach. And if they're found in violation, which there's no definition, it's up to, that there's a very vague definition where talking about the election is controversial, where we're going to be fining teachers $5,000 for having those discussions. You can't talk about history and you can't talk about the society we live in without talking about current events. And so, this is just another example of legislative overreach and them caring about local control, but only when it's their local control. We shouldn't have this state body trying to come in and police our teachers who've proven time and time again that they're going to teach what is right and what our students need to be learning. And I'm so grateful to have what I arguably say is one of the best teachers in Mesa Public Schools, in my senior year of high school at Dobson High. Without her and without the challenge that she gave to us to go out and be critical and to learn, I wouldn't have had the experiences and the idea and understanding of the world that I do now. The second one I want to hit again is HB 2161, which was the bill that essentially said that if a student confides in a teacher that they are in any way LGBTQ, that teacher is forced to disclose that information to a parent. That was the original language of the bill. We worked really hard to get that stripped. They did. They still passed the bill in a reduced version, but we need to make sure we're being inclusive and fostering positive environments, and that's not doing it.
Yeah, interesting too, because with that particular bill, our head of legal, Diane Post, who's not here tonight, said it was still kind of rather vaguely worded. And so there's still, it'll I think have an effect on teachers that they're not going to know exactly what it is that they're supposed to disclose. So thank you again for your thoughtful answers. We're now at 7:06, and that's usually when I will open it up to audience questions. We might have an early end for tonight. If anybody wants a spoiler on how the Serena Williams match turned out, I'm happy to share with you. Am I getting thumbs up? I don't want to ruin it for anybody if they're recording it. She won. So first match was a tiebreaker, and I was. Sometimes my camera's off, so I can just go very quickly and catch the score. So I'm really, really happy to see her return. I think she's just such an amazing athlete and such a great example for what could be possible. She's amazing. Sorry, I'm fangirling a little bit. Anyway, so let's go ahead and go to these audience questions. The first one comes from Emily, who is still here. So thank you, Emily, for sticking around. We are happy that you joined us tonight and that you're coming up with this thoughtful question. So Emily asks, and let's see, we will be starting with Marcy for this one. Emily says, policies and programs certainly have their place, but how do you see yourself as a board member actively supporting teachers? So that's part one, because this is kind of a two-parter. So policies and programs certainly have their place, but how do you see yourself as a board member actively supporting teachers? And then what does supporting teachers mean to you? So Marcy, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, in my past life as an educator, I have been a lifelong member of the Mesa Education Association, the Arizona Education Association, and the National Education Association. I have been an advocate for teachers as well as classified staff for many, many, many decades. And having had that experience, I know that besides, of course, salaries, which of course, when I came teacher here in Arizona, Arizona was number 11 in public school spending. We are now always groveling at the bottom. Salaries, obviously, benefits, obviously, that's how we support folks. They don't come at teaching for the money, but my gosh, they've got kids to feed and they've got kids to put through college and they've got cars to buy just like the rest of us. I would suggest that one of the most important things we can do is to listen, to make sure our employees have a voice. We have 9,000 employees in Mesa. We are the biggest employer in the city of Mesa, is Mesa Public Schools. We must listen to our people. When we listen to our people, they feel valued, they feel supported. And we do that through negotiating with their associations in legitimate and honest meet and confer bargaining conferences. We must listen to them. We must support them. And by doing so, we cannot have a cookie cutter approach to the problems that teachers and our classified employees face. It's got to usually be a site-based decision. And even though we are the biggest school district in the state, we are the biggest little school district in the state. Mesa Public Schools is a family of loyal employees that serves our kids by strength and need.
Great, thank you so much. So again, same question now. We'll go to Jacob. And Jacob, just let me know when you got to zip out. But the policies and programs certainly have their place. But how do you see yourself as a board member actively supporting teachers, and what does supporting teachers mean to you?
I love what Marcy said at the end there about it being a family, because it couldn't be further. I mean, it's so true. My family's worked in Mesa Public Schools for decades, and it's a community. And you don't get into this work because you want to be rich or to make a ton of money, but you get in because you care about the students and you care about the community that you're serving. And so I'm so proud to come from this community and to have gone through this system, because I can't imagine how different life would be if I hadn't. And I had written it down here too. I don't want it to seem like I'm just copying Marcy, but it starts with that listening. We need to, if we're going to be, making decisions that are impacting thousands of employees here in our district and in the city, we have to be mindful of what those decisions, those unintended consequences could be. And that's why it's so useful to have a board with such a variety of backgrounds, so that we can get that full perspective and understand that, sometimes a decision may seem really great in one aspect, but in another, there's some really poor consequences that we may not have thought of before. And so it starts with that listening and being mindful of all of the employees and the people that we have within our organization. And secondly, I think to really support teachers, it requires us to act as advocates. Like we just talked about in the last question, there's a lot of legislation going through constantly that's trying to, handcuff teachers, limit teachers, and I mean, quite frankly, take pay and funding away from our classrooms. What teachers want usually is what students want. So by putting students first, we're putting teachers first, and we're ensuring that our classrooms don't have 40 students in them, and that our students and our staff alike have the resources that they need. So acting as an advocate down at the legislature, and with the powers that be, to ensure that we have a school community that's properly funded with the resources that we need, and ensuring we're always listening to our people.
All right. Same question goes to you, Ray. How do you, oh gosh, let me get back to it because I lost it again. I want to make sure that I'm fair with everybody. So policies, programs certainly have their place, but how do you see yourself as a board member actively supporting teachers, and what does supporting teachers mean to you?
All right, good. Yeah, this question hits home. As a former MPS teacher, I knew firsthand the issues. When I took the job full-time as a middle school teacher, I also had to, I signed up for about 2 or 3 other types of jobs to make ends meet. I was the breadwinner in our family, and so I had to, right after school, I had to rush to my other job down on during the evenings, had to rush to another job on certain other days just to make ends meet. And so this was prevalent throughout all the teachers. And as I go door to door campaigning during this cycle, I've met several teachers, and they said the only reason they're out is because they couldn't support themselves, but their heart is with the students. And so what I believe one issue that could resolve is Mesa Public Schools to possibly adopt a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, every 2 to 3 years. Everyone would get an automatic 2 to 3%, 4% raise just to adjust to the economics of the day. Also, a yearly annual review on their performance, not necessarily that their student scores, because that would be offsetting with other classrooms, but mainly their attendance, their timeliness, and their willingness to be on time of their grades and things of that nature, and their performing in their teaching curriculum. I believe they should be rewarded with the 2, 3, 4% raise, depending on their activity and their willingness to fulfill the needs of the students. Also, if we implement this, I think we would have a lot of teacher retention, and teachers would have a sense of security, economic security, to be able to teach. Also, teacher support. As a teacher, I had to go and teach and rush home at night sometimes and be up midnight recording the grades and grading them. I think we can have support staff to do data entry, get the grades into the system so that we can support the teachers, at least take that component out.
Great, thank you so much. It looks like we have one more audience question, and that one's coming from Heather. And it kind of goes along with the other one. What are you going to do to keep experienced teachers in Mesa? How will you attract new teachers to fill the many vacancies we currently have? And I can imagine that as the largest school district in Arizona, there's probably quite a few vacancies. So let's see, this time we ended with Ray. And that means, Jacob, you're going to go ahead and get us started.
Yeah, I think I'll start us off, and then I'll jump to the other Zoom real quick, and then I'll be back. But it starts with salaries, and acting as an advocate. We need to be doing everything we can to push the legislature and be doing what we can as a district to ensure that we can have competitive salaries. That's one, attracting people to the profession, but two, retaining the individuals we have. Just since graduating high school, there's more teachers than I can count on my fingers that have left teaching because they can't afford to live off of the salary that they're receiving. And we shouldn't, education is an investment, and it's an investment in our community and in the students in the future community that we're going to see in 10, 20 years. And so we need to be doing everything we can to get those salaries up, from working within our own budget to advocating at the legislature to put more dollars into public education. Secondly, we're kind of going full circle and talking about mental health again by fostering positive environments, not just for students, but for staff as well. We're going to create an environment that teachers love to teach in, and that want to teach in and don't want to leave the district and don't want to leave the profession, because they feel like they're listened to and that they're cared about and that we have their best interests at heart. So by caring about mental health, not only are we going to be retaining the staff that we have now, because we have a positive environment that they can work in and not toxic like so many other places are right now. We're also going to be, students are going to see that. And students are then going to go to college, get their teaching certificates, and then want to come back to Mesa Public Schools because they've seen what a great experience it was for them and their teachers. And so in doing so, we're going to be attracting an entire new generation of strong, motivated educators who we desperately need right now. I'll be back.
Okay, no problem, Jacob. So the next person to go after Jacob is going to be Ray. So Ray, what are you going to do to keep experienced teachers in Mesa, and how will you attract new teachers to fill the many vacancies that we currently have?
Okay. Oh yeah, thank you. Good question. So add, this is an addition, so you can tack on my last answer on teacher salary to this answer. And in addition, there's the issue of creating, again, my paradigm shift that I talked about, that each school site must have a good working relationship environment. Always talk about the 3 C's wherever I go. The 3 C's is in all of our approach, we should have a calm, cool, and collected attitude and environment. And it starts at the top from Mesa School Board Governing Board members to the superintendency, all the way to our administrators at each school site. And it kind of a trickle down effect to our teachers, that when they see that they have the support of admin, that they'll be able to willingly go to administration, to their principal, vice principal, and go to them with their problems and their issues without any fear of backlash. And that's a key that we have to start here in Mesa Public Schools, that we have a fluid environment where all stakeholders will be able to fully talk with each other without any type of anger issues or backlash. But we're only here for the children and what's in their best interests. And if there's a valid issue brought by a teacher or school personnel or security guard or a teacher's aide, we can validate their concerns even at the highest level. And I think that would be a really good approach. In my studies, there's one type of leadership that's kind of been gone to the wayside. It's called servant leadership. If elected, I'm not going to be a leader. I'm going to be a representative, a servant to the people. And so in servant leadership, you have that type of environment where it's fluid, where you're approachable. And again, sticking with the 3 C's, all people would see that the administrators, the teachers, and even trickling down to the students, that it will be a calm, cool, and collected environment. And all these issues that we have on the school sites will go by the wayside, because there's that paradigm shift of learning institutions, learning environments. And you'll see that a lot of our issues, anxiety and depression, will go by the wayside and take care of themselves. And our school environment will be that. And so that we can highlight that to our incoming teachers.
Great. Thank you so much, Ray. Same question is going to go to you, Marcy. What are you going to do to keep experienced teachers in Mesa, and how will you attract new teachers to fill the many vacancies that we currently have? Thanks, Heather, for the question.
Yeah, I really thank Heather for the question as well. The attracting and retaining the best qualified people to serve our students is first and foremost what's going to impact education in Mesa. We've got to do that by having an attractive salary. And we've got to add to the base, because we want to attract new teachers, but we have to make sure that we have a percentage continually that allows our experienced teachers to obtain a living wage. And we're really struggling with that because of the legislature and the funding that the legislature provides. However, one of the things that we've done in Mesa, and we did this in 2019, Mesa refuses to be non-competitive when it comes to teacher salaries. So this community passed a budget increase. The legislature allows us to pass an increase of 15%. And we did that in 2019. It allows us to have a base salary, which now is the most competitive in the East Valley. And with the additional $32 million that provided by the legislature, I believe that we'll be able to continue the highest starting teacher salary, as well as some of the highest average teacher salaries in the East Valley. We need to attract people to the teaching profession. We are doing that with our partnership through ASU called the Next Generation Workforce, as well as a very cool Mesa Public Schools program called Paths to Teaching, where our employees who have a bachelor's degree are getting certified while on the job through classes and mentorships within our own Mesa Public Schools. It does not cost them any money. It does not cost them extra time after school. Time and treasure is what keeps people from entering the profession. Let's listen to our employees and let's address student behavior issues through professional development.
Thank you for that. You know, I have a quick follow-up question on that one, which I normally don't do, but I'm just for my own curiosity. So what about, because I remember a time in Arizona where schools were fully funded and could actually, it was about the time that I started teaching where this practice ended, but schools would, provide some kind of financial assistance to teachers who wanted to further their degree programs. Maybe they wanted to get like a reading comprehension endorsement or the shift and include special ed as part of what they can do. They also would actually help the classified staff with funding their own education. So I'm curious, does that include classified staff? Because sometimes, as in my experience as an educator, sometimes the classified staff, because they are members of the communities, and are neighbors to these kids, would have just a really great handle on those relationships, whether it was being able to help assist manage a classroom or just kind of really, give you some insight like, hey, well, I'm going to tell you that this kid right here, unfortunately, their parents went through divorce last summer or something, like that kind of stuff. They have this special quality and many of them are eager to go to school. But unfortunately, in Arizona, the higher education costs have become prohibitive for a lot of people. So does it include classified staff, Ms. Hutchinson?
Well, in Arizona's race to the bottom, I hate the scrolling down every time we talk about funding. Those types of incentives went away. That's why I'm really proud that Mesa Public Schools has done this Paths to Teaching. We found out that one of the most important reasons why people weren't entering the teaching profession is that education is so expensive because the legislature is not funding our state universities. People have to take out loans, and you're not going to be able to pay back your student loan on a teacher's salary. It's prohibitive. People weren't entering the profession because they couldn't pay back the loans. Our Paths to Teaching, these classified, many of them are classified employees who have a bachelor's degree, are now getting Arizona teacher certification in 2 years, and they are not having to do it by paying the university. They are actually getting paid to teach our children, and they are getting on-the-job training, which means they are not having to take classes after school, which takes them away from their families. Time and treasure was what was keeping people, and this is one of our ways. We are taking incredibly talented classified folks who wanted to become teachers, and now we're providing the means to let them live their dreams.
Great. And thank you for that clarification. I hope at some point we can get back to the place where we can actually provide those who maybe only have a high school diploma or a few semesters or an associate's degree, so that they can carry on their education. And if things shift in 2022, we shall see, but maybe our schools will actually be fully funded. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
All right.
We have Mesa College Promise as well, which is extremely important, but I bet you Jacob could talk better about that.
Well, I'm going to actually go ahead and close this out. I don't see any more questions from the audience. Thanks to Heather and JR for sticking around and staying as in part of this forum. Thanks to the three of you. I do want to talk a little bit about, like I said, the events that we have coming up. And I don't know, Eric, if you can maybe share your screen and throw those up before we get a closing statement from everybody. We do have some really great virtual events coming up. Of course, we have our Secular Summit that will be happening in December. We are working out some details. We have some exciting leads on some great speakers. We also post all of these on our YouTube, on our Facebook. So if you want to access these, or you really think that somebody needs to see the if somebody wasn't able to because they were watching Serena Williams tonight, you can point them in the direction of our YouTube page. So looky there, we've got Laura Portundo, She's a fellow with the program for the study of reproductive justice at Yale Law School. She's going to be discussing the intersection of First and 14th Amendment rights with respect to reproductive rights. We have this wonderful series with a local attorney happening beginning on September 8th. It's basically classes or a series of informative sessions about our Constitution. We also have some partnerships with Arizona End of Life Options, one of our favorite nonprofit organizations here in Arizona, where they talk about, what can be done for those who hope to die with dignity. And then we have Meg O'Connor coming up on Friday, September 16th. She is the senior reporter for The Appeal and will discuss policing and reproductive rights. Looking forward to that one as well. And again, we are going to start the series of statewide candidate and the special election of the Maricopa County Attorney. Those will be on Wednesday nights, and I hope that all of you will join us. These are free events. However, we do rely on the generosity of your donations, so please consider visiting secularaz.org to become a member and to support our mission. So and thanks, Eric actually put them in the webinar chat too, so we can share those on our Facebook page as well. So with that, I think we are back to the beginning order. And Ray, in 2 minutes or less, can you close us out and tell the people why? Because they get 2 votes in the city of Mesa. So why should they give one of those votes to you, Ray? Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to thank your organization, Secular Arizona, for inviting me to be able to share my thoughts and feelings on issues regarding Mesa School Board. As far as my credentials, I believe I would hope to have any and all votes because there's a HR phrase called hit the ground running. I believe if elected, I would be able to hit the ground running, being a previous school board member for my tribe, Salt River Schools, also being a former teacher here within MPS and also at LA Unified. And also I've been in the trenches, so to speak, as a teacher's aide. And also I forgot to mention I was school security years ago also. And also I'm a parent of MPS students, my wife and I, and so we're proud parents of MPS students and graduates. And so I think all of this wealth, I call it wealth of knowledge, I will want to bring and share to the board in my community. And also to bring, starting at the top, as I stated, I conduct my life law-abiding citizen and as a calm and cool and collected manners. And as an associate judge, I'm a fact finder. And so I approach all issues in an unbiased and impartial manner. And so I'll be able to have and listen to the voices of all people and be able to make grounded decisions as I go forward on the many issues that will face the school board as we approach the school year, the upcoming school year. I believe that as a member of the school board, again, I would be a representative to the people, to the parents and the guardians. I won't be a leader to them. Everyone's in charge of their own lives, and I would be a representative to the people. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Marcy, same to you. 2 votes. Why should the people of Mesa give you one of their votes?
Again, I want to thank Secular Arizona for the opportunity to talk with folks. It's what I enjoy the most, being a school board member. I am an experienced educator, having taught in the Mesa Public Schools for 28 years. I served also at Arizona State University and have a statewide perspective on educational issues. I've been a public education advocate my entire adult life. I am a parent of 2 daughters who are proud graduates of Mesa Public Schools. Perspective means everything to me. You, as a school board member, you have to be willing to listen to all of our stakeholders, students, parents, educators, classified, community members. You have to be that person that's the conduit between the community, our vibrant Mesa community, and the district, to make sure that the district is relevant to our students, that we are preparing them for the future. Every kid deserves a shot at a great education. They deserve to be taught in a safe and healthy school. They deserve to be taught by professional educators in a fully funded school. And they deserve to have a meaningful, real life, purposeful education. That's what we need to be doing in Mesa Public Schools. I am driven by our promise. Our promise is that we will meet students' strengths and needs, every single kid, and that we will ready them for college, career, and community. And I am proud that Jacob Martinez is running because he's emblematic of what we're trying to do at Mesa Public Schools. He's obviously one of our graduates who's ready to lead. And I also thank Raymond for running, because Raymond, as a parent, represents a community that we need to be hearing more from. Thank you, Raymond, for running.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm going to encourage all of you to put your information in this chat, but also maybe go back to the live video and revisit it. And that way you can share your social media handles, your websites, any events that you might have coming up. I would do it myself, but I'm going to let you go ahead and do that either now or retroactively. And then Jacob, you are going to be the one to close us out for tonight. People have 2 votes to give in Mesa, and why should they give one of them to you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeannie, for hosting our conversation tonight, and to Secular Arizona for hosting this town hall. I think we, as a board, we need to embody our community. We're diverse. We come from many different backgrounds. And so we need to be mindful of the communities and diligent about who we're serving. From serving in the military to, serving on the school safety task force with the Department of Education. I'm running to bring a unique perspective to the board. I'm not running to be superintendent, thankfully. I'm running to add to a discussion of how we can be making decisions that's going to best impact our students. Because we live in a time where we have 21st century unprecedented problems. The idea of blended learning, of learning on a computer, of lockdowns because of COVID, of the mental health epidemic that we're seeing in the United States. These are issues that are unique to this time period, unfortunately. And being a product of that very system, it's important to have that perspective on the board so that we're making decisions that are not just going to help us do the bare minimum in supporting our students, putting us at a point where we can far excel, so that our Mesa Public School graduates are the most sought after students in the state of Arizona. As the largest district in the state, we should be leading the way when it comes to these initiatives that are going to be revolutionizing education. And so hopefully with the support of the community and of Mesa, I can just hope to add to a discussion that's already been started by our, the wonderful team we have at Mesa Public Schools, and continue that, for years to come.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for closing us out on this series of candidate forums that we've done. As I said earlier, Mesa Public Schools is the largest district in Arizona. I see that Jacob's put his up. Make sure you do it on our Facebook page as well. And I want to appreciate what you said too, that you're not running for superintendent, because quite frankly, we have quite a few school board candidates who think that they're running for superintendent, and it's important that school board members know to stay in their lane. And you're responsible for holding them accountable, but you certainly are not running the whole entire show. So great way to close, great candidates. The people of Mesa are lucky that you all have stepped up. I just want to say thank you. My time on my school board in the Creighton School District was some of the most professionally fulfilling time of my life. And so thank you all for joining us. And I hope that you'll continue to engage with us in the future. So with that, have a great night, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.